Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Black Ops 6 campaign. We start in Kuwait 1991, where we play as William Calderon, better known as Case, and for this mission we have the help of Troy Marshall and Jane Harrow. We start off with a flashback mission as our boss Daniel Livingston asks us what happened in Kuwait as our mission was compromised. The mission was supposed to be simple: capture Alawi and bring him back to the CIA. Once we get to Alawi and capture him, he informs us that the CIA had a deal with him and our man was getting him out. Not really sure who our man is, but I guess we'll find that out later. The other thing he mentions to us is that we are not alone and we are introduced to the Pantheon. We continue on the mission and we go through a canyon where the Pantheon is now on the ground and we have to fight through them. After fighting through the Pantheon and through the canyon, we meet an old friend. This friend decides he's going to blow Alawi's brains out, and not in a good way. And who is our friend, you may ask? Adler informs us that the CIA is compromised and that Alawi could not fall into the hands of either the CIA or the Pantheon. He did have one other thing to tell us, which is that he's playing way too much chess.com recently.
Bishop takes Rook.
After being suspended from the CIA, Harrow calls us into her office and it is decided that Woods, Case and Marshall are going somewhere and Harrow is going to stay in the CIA to cover for us. We find out later that the message left by Adler somehow meant that there was an abandoned KGB safe house in Bulgaria called the Rook, and from looking around the place we can find that Adler has been here before. Our first mission from the safe house takes us to Avalon, where we are meeting with Savati Dumar as she has intel on the Pantheon and she is an ex-member of a group called the Guild. She's been hired by Adler because she's familiar with the place that we are going to. We join her on this mission as she is currently on the Pantheon Trail and we are here to gain her trust. Our target for this mission is a broker for the Guild and someone who is holding a party on his yacht. His name is Yannick and he apparently wears sunglasses at night time, so you can trust him about as much as you can trust people that wear sunglasses inside. After swimming through the water like I'm Prime Michael Phelps, I jump through the window of the church and instantly get spotted. You'd think this was my first time doing this, but it really isn't. After then taking out every guard on this floor because I alerted all of them by trying to kill that guy, I head up to the bell tower and we find a sniper up there. This is when nostalgia hits for me because a sniper rifle in a high place. I start trying to eliminate Yannick like I'm going for the closer of Phase Ilkham's back in the Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops 2 days. After attempting this for way too long, and by way too long I mean I think in total about 2 hours, I decide I'm just going to do it the normal way. If you're new to the channel, one thing that you need to know about me is I really don't listen when I'm playing the single player games. I completely missed the part where Savati told us that we needed to wait until the conversation had ended before killing him.
I needed that intel for Adler.
I clearly killed him before the conversation even started. Not like it matters, we find out what he was going to say anyway somehow. With that done, I channel my inner assassin and make like Ezio and dive off the bell tower. We head back to the payphone to meet up with Sev, who is someone we have never met before and shows up in a white van. I'm sure there's nothing wrong with this. I mean, it was the 90s, I don't think stranger danger had been invented yet. We get changed into disguises and get ready to crash the party between the Guild and the Pantheon. Now I did try to do this mission stealthy, but it didn't go to plan. We get to the Guild meeting and Sev is dressed as one of the security guards. She is going to hand me over to the top members of the Guild while they are in the middle of a meeting with Pantheon. The contact from Pantheon recognizes us, so Sev, with her quick thinking, saved my life and we are now chasing the rest of the members from that meeting. After running through the local market, we find one of them trying to get his shift in at a local bar. I end up having the accuracy of a stormtrooper and one bullet hits him in the elbow, which somehow kills him. Not really sure how that works, but hey, I'll take it. After running a bit more, we see the main man coming down the street in a limo and once again my accuracy lets me down, but I definitely kill him. You know, it wasn't the fact that he crashed into the car and flipped the limo and the limo instantly caught on fire. No, it had nothing to do with it. It was all me. I put a few bullets in him as he's crawling out of his car, and then a few more just to be sure that he's actually dead. Savati comes back to the safe house with us, and Marshall brings a tech genius called Felix Newman from Munich, who reveals that Adler is being held in a CIA black site under the Capitol Station in Washington, D.C. Luckily for us, there is a political event that is being held at the station, and we are going in disguise as a journalist as we need a retinal scan to gain access to where Adler is. I guess the only legal way that we can retain a retinal scan is through taking a picture. I'm guessing every other way involved either murder or assassination or something like that. Something a bit, you know, more extreme. Once we're inside the event, the first person we see is Harrow. She informs us that the CIA have a team that they have assembled to track us down. She also says that they could be here, but we just kind of ignore that and continue with what we're doing. One of the senators at the event has clearance for the black site, so we start talking to his wife. She tells us that the senator has an aide that is a lot younger than him, and we can find her in the auction hall. When we find her, she is talking to an accomplice, and we eavesdrop on their conversation where we find out that she is actually using the senator to get his money, and she has a tape of the senator in her car that they can use as leverage to take the senator's money. With this information, we follow the accomplice outside, we pickpocket him, take his valet ticket, get the keys to his car, and sneak out. Unfortunately, the guy catches us in the act, and we knock him out and lock him in the car. After giving the tape and the photos to the senator's wife, she confronts his aide and turns it into a diddy party, ending with the aide being escorted out for having too much to drink. She then gives us the photo op we've been waiting for, and we take a picture of his eye and head to the roof. While up there, Marshall and Sev come in and save us. We head down to where Adler is being held, and we get past a retinal scan just to find that all of the guards have been killed by the Pantheon. Just like the last mission, I decided to try and go in stealthy, but once again, my accuracy lets me down. I don't know what happened on this day. We finally get to Adler, who has one of the Pantheon guys as a body shield and another one dead on the floor. Adler does a quick impression of Horatio Kane from CSI Miami. And we're on our way. Until we are stopped by a juggernaut suit. Turns out that these are extremely weak to the homing knives that have just come in. We make our way back to where the party is, and the Pantheon have very quickly stormed the building. This, combined with the police surrounding the building, turns out we need to make a quick escape, and luckily there's just some very conveniently placed bikes that we can use to get out of here. I'm going to be honest, I am not 100% familiar with politics, but I am not sure why there was motorbikes at an event like this. Seems a bit strange. Anyway, we'll continue. It's a game. We make it out with Adler, and then we see Marshall calling Harrow to let her know that it was Pantheon that broke into the black site first, and there is someone in the CIA giving intel to the Pantheon. We convince Harrow to look into Livingston, as we think that it could be him that is giving out the information, but at this point, who really knows? For the next mission, we head back to Iraq, where there is a base set up for us to prepare to ambush a palace that Adler thinks has a Pantheon weapon. But before we do that, we have to clear 3 scuds, which is essentially another word for anti-air launchers. I had every intent of doing all of the side missions for this part with the open world aspect, and I really did enjoy the open world aspect, and I really wish I had a good reason for not completing this, but my reason is that I got bored and I just didn't want to finish the last 2 or 3. So me and my attention span of a squirrel head back to the camp, and we get ready to storm the palace. Just a side note, nothing to do with anything really about the game or the plot or anything like that, but the lighting of this mission is incredible with the sun going down. I really love this mission, how it looked. Just want to put that out there. It was so nice. Back to the story, and we clear out the palace and head down to the vault where we find a gold toilet. We found the weapon Adler was talking about. It is called the Cradle, and there's something about it that kind of makes me think of the zombies. I think it might be the sticker on the side, but I'm not sure. I don't know if it's like the colour. I don't know. There was just something about it that made me think zombies. Anyway, with the Cradle in our possession, we fight our way to the rooftop, and the helicopter gets us out of there. Adler has a theory of where he thinks the Cradle came from, so we're heading to a remote location in Kentucky where we need to find the biotechnology wing. Turns out that this location is just a normal business on the surface, but it may have been hiding something underground. I have realised playing through this campaign, they like a lot of underground things in this game. Back to this location, and it was apparently shut down and quarantined after a biohazard incident, so we are going in to investigate. That is, of course, until, like, true action hero Call of Duty style. The lift breaks, the ladder breaks, our mask breaks, and we end up in a room full of gas that we don't know what it does. When I first loaded into this mission and saw the gas, I thought it was kind of like the Nova 6 gas. I could be wrong. We get to the end of the room, the door is locked, and we have to find a tool to open the door. We do hear a bang and a crash behind us, and a barrel rolls out of one of the aisles. Down one of the aisles, luckily all of these mannequins are very helpful, and they're pointing us to an axe that we can use to open the door. How helpful of them. Once we've got the axe, the rest of the mannequins decide that they are going to try and keep us safe from that one that just morphed into a zombie for a hot minute. We break out of the door and make our way through the building, needing to go up a few floors to get back to Marshall, and I believe Sev is with us as well. We head up to the lift, which will take us to where we need to be, but it's restricted. The mannequins then start to turn into zombies, and I instantly feel safer as I can deal with these after playing Call of Duty Zombies for so many years. After all the zombies are gone, the phone starts ringing. A voice, which kind of sounds like Harrow, tells us that it's for us.
It's for you.
We're the only ones in this office, so no one else is going to answer it. We have no choice but to answer it. We're told that we have to get direct cards from 4 different rooms in order to gain access to the lift. The voice in our head tells us that we first experienced a cradle 10 years ago, which if I'm right would make it 1981. Our first room is where the grappling hook is, and after defeating a Cerberus type beast, we get the first card and get out. Trust me, I didn't want to stay in there any longer. Onto the next room, and there is a room full of water with this weird like ball inside. Our job is to drain the water and free this guy that has been held captive in what I can only describe as a hamster ball. We get back from draining the water, and of course he's no longer there. But we find him and we have to defeat him while being chased by zombies again. We get the card from him, and on our way out, I'm pretty sure this is Woods' wheelchair, as we get swarmed by zombie Woods. Now we have the red and the yellow card, we just need 2 more, the green and the blue. We get another phone call, this time telling us about the Cradle trials from last week and how we are exceeding expectations. I wish I could say that's what it was like in my school life, but yeah, no. In this room, we have to find 4 reports and turn them into the director, who is a red mannequin locked inside his office. Now, if any of you are Doctor Who fans, you'll know this instantly. This is straight up Weeping Angels. There is nothing else that, this was terrifying for me. As soon as you turn your back, they move closer. When you turn around and look at them, they stop. Also, it does not matter if you clear out all of the mannequins before you pick up the report. They still spawn back, and yeah, Weeping Angels. Anyway, after giving all the reports to the director, all the mannequins come back and we have to grapple the director to catch him, all while evading the Weeping Angel mannequins. I get out and the zombies start turning into what I think is the Pantheon, but I'm not too sure. We go into the last room and we decide that we're going to play prop hunt. Thankfully, the zombies are back and they are no longer mannequins, so I am no longer paranoid and stressed. We get the final card, and on the way back, the voice tells us that we were the first and last trial volunteer. We get the lift working, and we are on our way to biotechnology. That is until the lift breaks again, and hooray, there's another phone. I will say, just while we're going through this weird little vortex thing, I find it interesting that our character's name is Case, and we are referred to as Case 1. I could be looking too far into this, but who knows. This is where we meet the final boss, and yeah, it's a very fun fight. You just keep your distance. With him defeated, we get swarmed by zombies and start to fight them off until we realise it is Marshall and Sev. Apparently, we had some form of trip, and I don't know when it stopped or when it started, if I'm honest. As like a player, who knows, we never find out. Back at the safe house, and Woods shows us that Felix has made progress on the disc he found earlier. He sets up a projector, and that's where we see what the Cradle is capable of. Oh, and we also see Harrow is performing the experiment. Felix also found out that the Pantheon is using a casino in Avalon for money laundering scheme, or what he thinks is a money laundering scheme. So we're going to the casino to see if we can find what the Pantheon is keeping there. With the plan set in place and everyone in the casino wearing a suit, Marshall shows up in his everyday clothes, which is kind of strange to me how this was not picked up by security. First person we meet up with is Sev, who is disguised as a worker at the casino trying to get us interested in this classic car, and it does look very nice. She slips us a few playing cards so that we can put them up our sleeves and get to the high roller tables. We switch to Case's point of view, where he is hijacking the cameras so that Woods can see everything and help us on the outside. We get the cameras up and running and turn ourselves into the security team. Back at the poker table, and Marshall is in a game where the winner will go to the high roller table. With the help of Woods, we know what cards he has, and he is about to win. That is until Sev comes and accidentally spills a drink onto our opponent, causing a distraction so that we can use the cards that we stashed up our sleeve earlier. We get a full house, leave the table with everything, and make our way to the high roller table, where we make the slot machines spit out all the money that they hold. The casino calls the engineer to come and fix it, and of course the engineer is none other than Felix. He goes in and resets the server, but also while he's there, he decides he's going to make a copy of a card that we stole from one of the security guards so that we can gain access to the underground area. Our first task in the underground area is to access the elevator and the armory. Once we have stashed as many weapons as we can from the armory into the cart, we make our way to the safe. We crack the safe and Felix goes to work on removing the security for the archive room so that we can access that. We go back to Casey's point of view while Sev and Marshall are holding off the guards, and we are able to break free, grab a gun and make our way upstairs to the archive room. We're told that whatever we're looking for and whatever Pantheon is hiding is in box B24. So we head to that box. It turns out there is a dossier in there, and now we have to escape the casino. But the Pantheon are here as well as the guild, and we need to get out as quick as we can. So of course we head to the sewer and leave on a boat. Going through the dossier, and we find that the casino is transferring money to a lab in Iraq, and it is directed to Gusav, who was the scientist we saw on the video with Harrow, showing what the cradle is capable of. Adler calls in a favour with one of his friends who is stationed in Iraq, as we need to track down Gusev, who is apparently in an airport and about to leave on a plane. We make our way through the airport beating elite shotgunners and juggernauts, and we finally get to the plane where there is more Pantheon inside. We clear the entire plane just to find out that it isn't the right one. We hijack a tank and we start making our way across tarmac trying to catch the plane before it takes off. We end up going back through the airport, somehow destroying concrete. I get it's a tank, but come on. We fire a rocket from... I say a rocket, it's not really a rocket, is it? It's like a tank artillery battery thing. I can't think of the word for it, but yeah, that thing. We fire something from the tank and it hits the plane and stops the plane. We get the information from Gusev, and Adler tells him that we can put him in the blender. That is, of course, until Sims decides that he's going to take him into custody, and he is now his responsibility. The information we got from Gusev was that there is a base in Vorkuta where the cradle is being held. We decide that we are going to send our Master of Disguise, Sev, in, so that she can blend in with Pantheon. We go in, steal some guy's uniform, and this is where it begins. First, we plant an explosive onto some crates which will be loaded into the helicopter. Next, we move on to sabotaging the warheads that are being loaded into the SAM turret. That makes it so they can't shoot anything down. While talking to the guard at the radar dish, he tells us that there is a simulation that can be done where it takes the radar offline for a little bit. Turns out today's our unlucky day and the test needs to be done today. Next, we head to the security room where we look at the camera feed and we find where the cradle is being kept. We also find that Harrow is here and the mission changes very slightly. We need to get Harrow as well as the cradle. Zev radios a guy at the radar dish to run a simulation and the helicopter comes in undetected. We open fire on the base and make our way down. Marshall makes a very brave decision that him and Zev are going to go one way, and I am left by myself with my own thoughts.
Case, I know you can hear me.
And of course by my own thoughts I mean Harrow. She tells us that our decision doesn't have to be the same as Marshall's and that we have a gift. We finally meet Harrow face to face when Marshall and Sev come in again and save us. I think this is like the 5th time they've done this in this campaign. We capture Harrow and take her back to the safe house while Marshall tries to figure out where everything went wrong and why Harrow is part of the Pantheon, especially as she was so loyal to the CIA and so were her parents. Adler gives Harrow a drug of some kind, and Marshall decides that he's going to talk to Harrow to see if he can see the original Jane Harrow is still in there. Marshall tells her about the bioweapon, and Harrow responds by saying that it is something that she would never do. We end up in a dreamlike world, which I'm guessing is Harrow's conscience or something, I'm not really sure. Anyway, we end up back in her childhood home, where she finds a younger version of herself, and this is where the memory starts with Harrow's mother telling us to get under the bed and stay there. We look into the mirror in her childhood room and find the evil version of Harrow staring back at us. She breaks the mirror, and this starts a scavenger hunt to find all 3 pieces of the mirror that broke off, so here we go. We find the first one and the memory continues. We go to find Harrow's parents just to see her mother get killed right in front of us. Nothing like a bit of childhood trauma, I guess. Our father comes and tells us to stay hidden. We head back into the dream state and we're having to turn the power on so that we can use the lift. We were running across some kind of support beam and it broke and we end up down here, so yeah. We see Wood's wheelchair again and it's it's back again, but this time it's got a doll on. That's not creepy at all. The zombies are back, but this time they look like Jane, and also the mannequins are back, and I swear I am not paranoid. You are. We get the lift working and get the second mirror shard. We go back to the memory and Harrow's dad gets shot through the door. He decides to whip out his knife, which seems like a good choice until, the guy shoots him and the mirror gets destroyed. We take a quick break from the psychological horror of trying to fight ourselves as the Pantheon are heading to the safe house and we need to defend the safe house. We survive the first few waves and Woods decides he's going to take over the interrogation. So we start with this new memory with finding out that Harrow had been accepted into the CIA. She starts telling us how she worked her way up so that she could find out what happened to her parents and who was sent to kill them. This is the part of the campaign where I started to remember the marketing for this campaign and the recurring message of the truth lies. Anyway, we walk through the CIA building and to Harrow's office where we meet Evil Harrow, who very quickly Spartan kicks us back to what appears to be the palace from earlier in the campaign, which is where we first saw the cradle. We get a gun and a grappling hook, but run out of time. We keep both, which is very helpful. We manage to get all the way back to the door of our office and head inside. Now we have two choices, the family picture on the table or the drawing that Marshall did of Harrow that is hanging on the wall. I went for the one that is on the wall, but I don't think it really matters other than it might give a different dialogue. I could be wrong, I don't know. I didn't pick the other option. I probably should have gone back and picked it just to see if there was a difference. But hey, too late now. We look at the disc on the computer and find that the Pantheon have copies of Harrow's parents' records and that it was actually the CIA that ordered the hit on her parents. The person that did it?
Target's eliminated.
Nothing like a little bit of childhood trauma. She's seen both of her parents die. Great. We walk through a different version of the CIA office as Evil Harrow tells us about how the Pantheon is going to take the reins and give America a reality check. We revisit the memory of Harrow's father's death and it turns out it wasn't Adler. The memory rewinds until the voice becomes real and revealed that it's not Adler, it is an unknown voice. I have no idea what it was like for Harrow to relive that constantly and rewind. I feel like that's like torture. It could also be therapy, I don't know. We stab Evil Harrow and start defending Harrow from Harrow. I'd said her last name way too many times, but whatever. We finally find the last piece of the mirror and another break to fight the rest of the Pantheon that are swarming the house, but this time on the other side in the back garden. We survive them, and then back in the house we find that they are now inside and they are trying to get Jane back. Make our way through the house and we have to get to the bridge to stop the Pantheon from coming across. During this, Felix gets injured and he tries to do the hero thing of go on without me, I'm not worth it, all that sort of stuff. And I'm going to be honest, he's probably not worth it. We could have just left him there to die, but you know, Marshall's a good guy and he decides he's going to take him. Back in Harrow's mind and we start losing her and we get Evil Harrow back again. Inside the mirror is Avalon, which is where the Evil Harrow planned everything. After falling out of the helicopter and being shot by a different helicopter, Woods rescues us and Harrow tells us that the cradle is in the Capitol building in DC. She also tells us that the Pantheon are waiting for her to release it, stating that the cradle was a CIA-funded bioweapon. Livingston will lose his job, and Harrow will take his place as he failed to stop the attack. Yeah. Once Harrow takes control, the Pantheon will start to take over the CIA. With that, Jane Harrow says that we have to stop her. The Pantheon come in and rescue Harrow. They hold Woods down while she puts a knife in his side and twists it. Switching back to Case, and we need to get back to the house with an injured Felix.
Sam, stay with him.
Again, I don't understand why we kept this guy, but alright, whatever. Marshall shoots at Harrow and we get an RPG fired at the house. We run after the helicopter and manage to grab onto the bottom as it takes off. Taking out one of the guards, we drop to the other side and take out the other guard so that we can board and confront Harrow, who then shoots the pilot by accident and the helicopter crashes into the ocean, I think, or some body of water, I don't know. She tells us that the cradle made us this way and the voice returns and tells us to destroy her. We hit her with the cradle as we are now obeying the word of the voice in our head as she starts to plead for us to stop.
We have to get out of this!
Well, that was slightly disturbing.
Hit rep. Case, he responded. Livingston's cleared out the Capitol. Everyone's safe. It's over. We did it, Case. We did it.
2 weeks later, and we are meeting up with Livingston, who praises us for stopping one of the greatest catastrophes of all time. He also informs us that we are in the shadows, but all of us are needed. Livingston can provide us with anything we need off the books, and that the world is in danger and we need to protect it. He also tells us that Harrow is gone, but Pantheon is still here, and we need to go back to Avalon, but there is still someone inside the CIA,
We thought they were long gone.
and he appears to be currently logging into Livingston's computer. Let's hope he closes search history. My final thoughts on the campaign. One of the things I absolutely loved about this, and I've been wanting to come back a bit more, they're using a lot of the maps from the campaign in multiplayer again. The safe house is being used as the map Payback. The palace where we first found the cradle is being used as, I think it's called Vault in multiplayer. This is something that I feel has been missing from a lot of Call of Duty campaigns recently that were in a lot of the older ones. I love being able to play the campaign missions as a multiplayer map, knowing where it was in the campaign, and it kind of feels a bit more part of the same story. Overall, I think this is a great campaign. I like the idea of the open world map, and I like that they only did this once because it was kind of a test the waters situation. I'd love to see them do it again. I completely understand why they only did one mission of it. I feel like if they did 2 or 3 or 4, it would have got too much. Don't get me wrong, it can definitely be improved. Like I said, I got very bored, but that could also just be me. By saying I feel like it could be improved, I don't mean that it's bad or anything like that. It's just their first time doing something like this, and I think it went better than most things that they've done first time in the campaign. But as with all things, there's definitely room for improvement. The option to go loud or quiet in multiple missions is really good. I've always enjoyed that. I tried stealth on a few, as you saw, and it just didn't work for me, but that's mainly because of my playstyle. I really struggle with stealth. I always have. As far as the story goes, the story was good. There was a few things that I questioned. Main thing being, is Harrow Case still alive? I'm guessing from context clues, they're not. I mean, we saw Case strangle Harrow, and then with the water coming in through the doors of the helicopter, along with Marshall's radio message to Case, it seems like they both died in there, but you never know with Call of Duty. They could have somehow both survived. I feel that this game did something that they tried before with Black Ops 3. I think it was called Emergence Mission, where you go to the facility with the mannequins and zombies and everything like that. I don't know what it was, but being able to tie the zombies and the campaign together was really good, and it felt kind of effortless on this. It worked so well. And I'm also going to say, with that mission, there was truth that zombies made me feel relaxed, but I genuinely have never experienced that feeling in a Call of Duty game. And the only way I can explain it is the way that I explained it at the time, which is that it turned into a horror game. Genuinely made me feel paranoid, because anytime the mannequin showed up in any other mission, I was on edge. It almost became kind of like a psychological horror game with a load of unpredictability and literally not knowing what was true and what wasn't. I know I referenced this earlier, but once again, the marketing of the truth lies really rang true with that mission, as well as a lot of the other ones. And I will say that is one mission that will stick with me, but I'm kind of glad it will. Most times whenever I play like horror games or anything like that, I hate them. And while yes, I did hate that, I will, 1, never forgetting, 2, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was looking back. It ended up being one of them things basically where, yes, I was glad the mission was over because I don't like horror games, and you know, I that's just me. I'm terrible with horror stuff. Yeah, no. But that mission was something different. I don't know like what it was about it. I was happy that that mission was over, but there was just something about that mission that like isn't going to give me nightmares, but I am going to remember the feeling of just being constantly paranoid about mannequins and like if there's something behind me. Like, oh, it was good. I'm glad that that like made me feel something. Also, later in the campaign, when you're going through Harrow's conscience and memory, you see one mannequin, and probably sounds dramatic, but honestly, I had trust issues with it. I thought that thing was going to come back to life and it was going to be the same thing, and we were, oh my god, I thought that it was just going to be like a room full of mannequins again. And yeah, kind of had like a flashback moment. Anyway, I've definitely yapped for way too long on this, and I'm going to wrap it up here. In general, I'd give this campaign probably like an 8 out of 10. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember, liking is free, subscribing is free. And also, have a nice day, night, whatever time it is for you. I'll see you in the next one.